The Caliph Dominion had conquered every hostile world they encountered. Their empire stretched across galaxies, swallowing planets whole and bending their inhabitants to their will. Commander Vera stood at the helm of her flagship, gazing out at the endless expanse of stars. She was a legend among her people, calm under pressure, brilliant in strategy, and merciless in execution. Her victories were countless, her failures non-existent. And now she faced what many considered an insult to her skills: Earth, a small blue planet on the edge of the galaxy. Vera's lips curled into a faint smile as she studied the holographic display of Earth spinning before her. It was beautiful, no doubt. Its oceans shimmered like liquid sapphire, its continents painted with vibrant greens and browns. But beauty meant nothing to the Caliph. They saw only resources, territories, and potential slaves. This mission should have been routine: a quick invasion, minimal resistance, and another notch in the Dominion's belt. Yet something about Earth unsettled her. "Commander," said Lieutenant Crail, her second in command, breaking the silence. His voice carried a hint of unease. "We're detecting unusual fluctuations in the atmosphere. Our sensors are malfunctioning." Vera turned sharply. "Explain." Crail hesitated, clearly uncomfortable delivering bad news. "It's as if the planet itself is interfering. Energy readings are erratic, and we can't get a clear scan of the surface. Some systems are even shutting down temporarily." Vera frowned. Such anomalies were rare but not unheard of. Planets with strong magnetic fields or dense atmospheres sometimes cause minor disruptions. Still, this felt different. She tapped a few commands on her console, reviewing the data herself. The numbers made little sense: spikes of energy followed by sudden drops, patterns that seemed almost deliberate. Could it be some kind of defense system? Crail asked cautiously. "No civilization on record has ever developed technology capable of interfering with ours," Vera replied firmly. "Earth is primitive. Their weapons are crude, their governments fractured. We've seen their broadcasts, petty conflicts over borders and ideologies. They pose no real threat." But even as she spoke, doubt lingered in her mind. The Caliph prided themselves on their superiority, yet arrogance had brought down empires before. She pushed the thought aside. Doubt was weakness, and weakness was unacceptable. As the fleet descended closer to Earth's orbit, strange things began happening. Communication channels crackled with static, images flickering between clarity and distortion. One officer reported seeing shadows moving across the screens, shapes that didn't match any known life forms. Another claimed to hear whispers, faint voices speaking in languages none of them understood. Enough. Vera snapped when rumors started spreading through the ship. "Focus on your duties. Whatever these anomalies are, they are insignificant compared to our objective." Her words silenced the crew, but the tension remained thick in the air. Below them, Earth loomed larger, its serene surface hiding secrets no one could predict. Vera clenched her fists, trying to shake off the feeling of dread creeping into her chest. This conquest would be unlike any other. On Earth, the situation was dire. News of the Caliph fleet's arrival had spread like wildfire, sparking panic across the globe. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses, but it was clear from the start that humanity stood no chance in a direct confrontation. The Caliph were centuries ahead in technology. Energy shields, plasma cannons, and gravity manipulation made their forces nearly invincible. Traditional militaries would be obliterated within minutes, but humanity wasn't ready to give up just yet. In a dimly lit underground lab in Geneva, Dr. Elena Marcus worked tirelessly alongside a team of scientists, engineers, and hackers. Her eyes were bloodshot from lack of sleep, her coffee mug perpetually half empty, but her mind was sharp as ever. She paced back and forth as holographic projections of Earth's ecosystems floated around her. "We can't fight them head-on," she said firmly, addressing her team. "Their weapons are too advanced, their armor impenetrable. But we have something they don't: an entire planet working against them." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed her words. For weeks, Marquez had been studying Earth's unique biosphere, searching for ways to turn its natural elements into tools of resistance. What she discovered was astonishing. Earth's microorganisms could evolve rapidly when exposed to foreign substances. Bacteria, fungi, viruses, all could adapt to new environments faster than any synthetic material. What if we weaponize nature? Marquez continued. We already know their tech is vulnerable to certain organic compounds. If we engineer pathogens tailored to disrupt their systems. Her assistant, a young bioengineer named Priya, raised a hand hesitantly. You mean infect them with diseases? Not exactly, Marx replied. Think bigger. We're not just talking about sickness. We're talking about complete system failure. Imagine microscopic organisms eating away at their circuits, mutating to bypass their defenses, or plants growing uncontrollably to trap their vehicles. Nature itself becomes our army. The idea was bold and terrifying, but it was their only hope. Over the next few days, Project Gaia took shape. Underground labs across the world began producing bioengineered organisms designed specifically to target the Caliph invaders. Meanwhile, civilian networks mobilized, using hack drones, repurposed satellites, and homemade gadgets to create chaos behind enemy lines. When the first wave of Caliph troops landed in what used to be the Amazon rainforest, they expected resistance, or at least some sign of human activity. Instead, they found silence. Thick fog blanketed the area, muffling sound and obscuring vision. Their scanners malfunctioned almost immediately, leaving them blind and disoriented. Private Lyrax adjusted his helmet nervously, gripping his plasma rifle tighter. He'd heard stories about hostile worlds, but this was different. There were no screams of battle, no explosions or gunfire, just an eerie stillness that sent chills down his spine. Movement, shouted one of his comrades suddenly, pointing toward the trees. Lyrax turned sharply, his heart pounding. At first, he saw nothing. Then, slowly, shapes emerged from the shadows, twisting vines creeping closer, their movements unnaturally deliberate. Before he could react, the ground beneath him shifted. Roots erupted from the soil, wrapping tightly around his legs and pulling him downward. Help me! Lyrax screamed, thrashing wildly as more roots snaked around his arms. His squad opened fire, blasting the vegetation to pieces, but for every root destroyed, two more took its place. Within moments, Lyrax disappeared beneath the earth, swallowed whole by the forest itself. By the time reinforcements arrived, there was no trace of the patrol, only scorched patches of ground where their weapons had fired uselessly. Reports flooded back to Commander Vera, each one stranger than the last. Soldiers spoke of hallucinations, equipment failures, and attacks from unseen enemies. Vera listened intently, her expression unreadable. Whatever humanity lacked in firepower, they'd more than made up for in ingenuity and resilience. For the first time in her career, she felt a flicker of uncertainty. This conquest wouldn't be easy. It might not even be possible. Commander Vera stared at the holographic display in her war room, frustration simmering just beneath her calm exterior. Reports from the surface painted a picture of chaos and confusion. Entire squads were disappearing without explanation. Equipment failures were becoming routine. Even the most seasoned soldiers, the ones who had faced horrors on other worlds, were shaken by what they encountered on Earth. At first, Vera dismissed it as paranoia. Fear could make even the bravest warriors see things that weren't there. But the evidence was mounting, undeniable now. Her scientists had analyzed samples brought back from the surface. Soil teeming with aggressive microorganisms, air thick with spores that seemed to evolve before their very eyes. These tiny life forms weren't just adapting. They were targeting the Caliph. "Commander," said Lieutenant Krail, entering the room with an urgent tone. "We've received new reports from Sector 7. Several units are compromised." Vera turned sharply. "Compromised? Explain." Krail hesitated, clearly uneasy. "Their neural implants have been corrupted. Soldiers are reporting hallucinations, visions of their families dying, voices accusing them of betrayal. Some are attacking each other. Others refuse to leave their bunkers, claiming the walls are alive. Vera's jaw tightened. This wasn't just sabotage, it was psychological warfare. And it was working. The Kelith prided themselves on discipline and unity, but these attacks were unraveling everything they stood for. She ordered a full evacuation of Sector 7, but it was too late. By the time reinforcements arrived, all that remained were empty suits of armor littered across the jungle floor. Inside each one, the soldiers' bodies were twisted and deformed, their flesh covered in strange growths. One helmet still emitted faint static, playing distorted recordings of screams and laughter. Back aboard the flagship, Vera convened an emergency meeting with her top advisors. Scientists presented their findings. Earth's biosphere wasn't just reacting to the Kelith, it was actively fighting back. Microbes infiltrated their systems, corrupting data streams and causing malfunctions. Plants grew unnaturally fast, entangling vehicles and trapping soldiers. Storms formed out of nowhere, targeting Kelith installations with precision. "It's as if the planet itself is sentient," muttered Dr. Zyron, the lead xenobiologist. "Every action we take is met with a counteraction, not random, but calculated." Vera's mind raced. Could Earth truly be alive? Not in the way animals or plants were, but as something greater, an intelligence woven into every aspect of its ecosystem. If so, this changed everything. They weren't fighting a species, they were fighting a world. Her thoughts were interrupted by another report. A mining operation in the Australian outback had gone dark after a sudden sandstorm buried the site under meters of shifting dunes. Survivors described how the grains clung to their skin like parasites, burrowing deep and causing unbearable pain. Attempts to dig themselves out only made the sand move faster, swallowing them whole. Vera clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. She had always believed in the superiority of the Kelith. Their technology, their strength, their resolve, they were unmatched. Yet here they were, being dismantled piece by something they couldn't comprehend. For the first time, fear crept into her heart, not for herself, but for her people. What if Earth wasn't just defending itself? What if it intended to destroy them completely? As she gazed out at the blue planet below, Vera felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity's absence on the battlefield didn't mean surrender, it meant preparation. They weren't fighting alone. Earth was their ally, their weapon, their shield. And it was winning. Dr. Elena Marquez stood in the heart of an abandoned subway station beneath New York City, her eyes scanning rows of monitors displaying live feeds from across the globe. Project Gaia was no longer just a theory. It was a living, breathing weapon. Every report that came in confirmed its effectiveness. Kelith troops were falling victim to Earth's relentless counterattacks, their advanced technology crumbling under the weight of nature's fury. But Marquez knew this wasn't enough. To truly turn the tide, humanity needed coordination, precision, and above all, unity. The underground network she had built stretched far beyond Geneva. Resistance cells operated in every corner of the world, each one tailored to exploit the unique ecosystems of their region. In the Amazon, bioengineered fungi devoured Kelith machinery. In Siberia, ice storms froze entire platoons in place. Even urban areas contributed, with hacked drones spreading swarms of metallic-eating bacteria into enemy camps. Yet Marquez understood that these efforts, while impressive, were scattered and reactive. She needed something more, a way to strike at the heart of the Kelith command structure. Her assistant Priya approached, clutching a tablet filled with new data. "We've intercepted communications between their fleet and ground forces," she said breathlessly. "They're panicking, Commander Vera especially. They don't know how to fight back against, well, us." Marquez smiled faintly but quickly sobered. "Good. Panic breeds mistakes. But we can't rely on chaos alone. We need to find their weak points, the cracks in their armor." Priya nodded and handed over the tablet. On it was a transcript of encrypted messages exchanged between two factions within the Caliph ranks. One group supported continued aggression, led by someone named General Thauric. The other advocated retreat, calling themselves the Harmonists. Their leader was none other than Commander Vera herself. Marquez's eyebrows shot up. Vera wants to pull out? That's unexpected. It seems so, Pryor replied. From what we've gathered, the Harmonists believe Earth is too dangerous to conquer. They think staying here will only lead to annihilation. Marquez leaned back against the cold concrete wall, deep in thought. A schism within the Caliph could be exactly what humanity needed. If they played their cards right, they might not have to defeat the invaders outright. They could make them destroy themselves. Do we have any way to contact the Harmonists directly? Marquez asked after a moment. Praya hesitated. It's risky. Any attempt to communicate could expose our position. But yes, we can send a message through their internal channels if we encrypt it properly. Marquez made her decision. Do it. Tell Vera we're willing to negotiate, but only if they agree to withdraw completely. And stress that Project Gaia isn't going anywhere. If they refuse, Earth will finish what it started. As Praya set to work crafting the message, Marquez allowed herself a rare moment of hope. For years, humanity had been divided by borders, politics, and greed. Now, faced with extinction, they had come together in ways she never thought possible. Farmers shared land to grow experimental crops. Hackers collaborated to disrupt alien systems. Scientists worked around the clock, driven by the belief that Earth deserved a future free from conquest. Hours later, the message was sent. It traveled silently through space, disguised as background noise until it reached the Caliph flagship. When Vera received it, her expression hardened. Humanity was offering her a lifeline, but at a cost. Could she trust them? More importantly, could she convince her own people to stand down? For now, the war raged on. But for the first time, the balance of power felt less certain. Earth had allies both human and natural, and together, they were proving unstoppable. Commander Vera stared at the decoded message on her console, her mind racing. The words were simple but carried a weight that pressed down on her chest. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were negotiating, offering terms, demanding surrender. Withdraw completely or face annihilation. The message read, Project Gaia will not stop until Earth is free. Vera clenched her fists, her knuckles white beneath her gloves. She had always prided herself on her composure, her ability to remain calm under pressure. But this was different. It wasn't just a threat. It was a declaration of war unlike anything the Caliph had ever faced. And worse, it came with an ultimatum she couldn't ignore. The psychological toll on her troops was already severe. Reports flooded in daily of soldiers driven to madness by hallucinations, paranoia, and physical mutations caused by Earth's relentless biosphere. Entire units were collapsing, not from combat, but from fear. Some claimed they saw visions of their homeworld burning. Others heard whispers accusing them of betrayal, voices so real they couldn't tell if they were coming from inside their heads or outside their helmets. Even Vera herself hadn't been immune. She'd started waking up in cold sweats, haunted by dreams of failure and loss. But humanity wasn't content to let nature do all the work. Their broadcasts grew more insidious, targeting the Caliph psyche with surgical precision. Hacked transmissions filled the airwaves, feeding the invaders distorted images of their own fears and insecurities. Soldiers watched as holographic projections of their loved ones screamed for help, only to dissolve into ash before their eyes. Messages whispered through their comms, taunting them with doubts about their mission, their leaders, their very existence. Why are we here? One soldier asked during a routine debriefing session, his voice trembling. What gives us the right to take another world? What happens when Earth fights back harder than we can handle? Vera silenced him with a sharp glare, but the question lingered in the room like smoke. Doubt was spreading faster than any disease, eating away at morale. General Thauric, her ruthless rival sent to oversee operations, seized on this weakness. He accused Vera of incompetence, blaming her leadership for the chaos unfolding below. "They're breaking you," Thalric sneered during a heated meeting. "You've lost control of your troops, Commander. Your hesitation has cost us lives and resources. If I were in charge, none of this would have happened." Vera met his gaze evenly, though anger simmered beneath her calm exterior. "And what exactly would you do, General? Burn the planet to ashes? That's suicide. You know as well as I do that Earth won't go quietly into the void." Thalric leaned forward, his voice dripping with venom. "Then perhaps it's time someone reminded you of your place. The Dominion doesn't tolerate weakness, Vera, not even from legends." As tensions escalated between them, Vera realized something crucial. Humanity wasn't just attacking physically, they were exploiting the fractures within the Caliph ranks. Their psychological warfare was designed to amplify distrust, to turn allies against each other. And it was working. That night, alone in her quarters, Vera replayed the human message again. Her instincts told her to fight back, to crush these rebels and prove her dominance. But another part of her, a quieter, more cautious voice, urged caution. Humanity wasn't acting out of desperation anymore. They were organized, calculated, and terrifyingly effective. For the first time, Vera questioned whether conquest was worth the price. The Amazon rainforest was a battlefield unlike any other. Towering trees loomed like silent sentinels while the air hummed with tension. Commander Vera led a contingent of elite Caliph soldiers into the dense jungle, her armor smeared with mud to blend in with the hostile environment. The mission was clear: secure a critical energy node that powered their orbital fleet. Without it, their ability to maintain dominance over Earth would crumble. But as they advanced deeper into the forest, the ground beneath them seemed alive, shifting and groaning as if resisting their presence. General Thalric accompanied the operation, his sharp eyes scanning every shadow. He had insisted on joining this mission, citing concerns about Vera's leadership. She knew better. Thalric wanted to see her fail, to catch her in a moment of weakness so he could justify seizing command. "This is madness," Thalric muttered as vines slithered across their path, tangling around their boots. "We're wasting resources chasing ghosts while humanity hides in the dirt like vermin." Vera ignored him, focusing instead on the faint energy readings emanating from ahead. Her instincts screamed caution. Something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. Even the birds had stopped singing. Suddenly, the forest erupted. Massive wolf-like creatures burst from the underbrush, their glowing bioluminescent markings casting an eerie light. They moved with unnatural speed, targeting the Caliph troops with precision. Claws tore through armor, fangs sank into flesh, and screams filled the air. Plasma rifles fired wildly, but for every creature killed, two more appeared to take its place. "Retreat," Vera shouted, grabbing Thalric's arm as one of the beasts lunged toward him. The general barely escaped, his face pale with shock. The surviving soldiers regrouped at a clearing, battered and shaken. Their numbers had been halved in minutes. Thalric glared at Vera, his voice dripping with venom. "Your incompetence has cost us dearly. I'll see you stripped of your rank for this disaster." Before Vera could respond, a low growl echoed through the trees. The remaining soldiers raised their weapons, but the sound wasn't coming from the predators. It was behind them. Turning slowly, they saw one of their own, Private Lyrax, staggering forward. His eyes were bloodshot, his skin covered in pulsating growths. "What happened to you?" Vera asked, horrified. Lyrax's voice was guttural, almost unrecognizable. "Earth changed me. It showed me the truth." With a roar, he charged at the nearest soldier, claws erupting from his hands. Chaos ensued as the infected private attacked his comrades, forcing the group to turn their weapons on him. When the dust settled, only a handful of soldiers remained standing. Thalric's expression shifted from fury to calculation. "This is your fault, Vera. You've lost control, not just of your troops, but of yourself." Surrender your authority, or I'll take it by force. Vera met his gaze, her resolve hardening. She couldn't let Thalric lead the Dominion further into ruin. As much as she hated to admit it, humanity's message had struck a chord. Earth was too dangerous to conquer, and staying meant certain destruction. That night, under cover of darkness, Vera made her move. Using encrypted channels, she reached out to the Harmonists, a faction within the Caliph advocating retreat. Together, they devised a plan. Fake her death during a skirmish, then defect to the Harmonists to rally support for withdrawal. As explosions lit up the sky and chaos consumed the battlefield, Vera disappeared into the shadows. For the first time, she embraced uncertainty, not as a leader of the Dominion, but as a traitor fighting for survival. In the stars above, humanity watched and waited, ready to strike again if necessary. Earth's wrath was far from over. The Caliph fleet hovered in Earth's orbit, fractured and faltering. General Thalric had seized control after Vera's supposed death, declaring her a coward who abandoned her troops. But his leadership only deepened the chaos. Troops on the ground continued to fall victim to Earth's relentless counterattacks, microbes eating through their armor, plants trapping them in suffocating coils, storms wiping out entire encampments. Morale plummeted further as soldiers whispered about Vera's betrayal, wondering if she'd been right all along. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Marquez stood in her underground lab, staring at live footage of the latest assault. Project Gaia had evolved beyond anyone's expectations. Bioengineered organisms weren't just targeting individual soldiers. They were now coordinating attacks like a single, massive organism. Plants grew unnaturally fast, forming walls that trapped invaders. Swarms of insects devoured exposed circuitry in seconds. And then there were the apex predators. "These creatures are incredible," Priya murmured beside Marquez, watching video feeds of wolf-like beasts tearing through Caliph patrols. "They're more than incredible," Marx replied, her voice tinged with awe. "They're intelligent. Look how they adapt mid-battle, flanking enemies, retreating when injured, even communicating with each other." The apex predators were the culmination of Project Gaia's efforts. Designed using genetic material from Earth's deadliest animals, these creatures combined strength, speed, and cunning. Their bioluminescent markings shifted colors to signal danger or coordinate group movements. Most terrifyingly, they seemed capable of evolving in real time, adapting to new threats faster than the Caliph could counteract. In the Siberian tundra, one such pack hunted down a convoy of Caliph vehicles. The creatures moved silently across the snow, their glowing patterns blending seamlessly with the aurora-lit sky. When they struck, it was swift and merciless. Claws shredded reinforced hulls, jaws crushed energy cores. Within minutes, the convoy was reduced to smoldering wreckage. Survivors reported seeing the creatures vanish into thin air, leaving behind only eerie silence. Back aboard the flagship, Thalric raged against these losses. He ordered retaliatory strikes, pouring resources into obliterating suspected breeding grounds for the predators. Entire forests burned under orbital bombardment, rivers boiled dry, and mountains crumbled under plasma fire. Yet the attacks did nothing to stop the tide. If anything, they made the predators stronger. Each destroyed habitat triggered an explosion of mutations among surviving organisms, creating even deadlier variants. Vera watched these events unfold from the shadows, working with the Harmonists to undermine Thalric's authority. Using encrypted channels, she leaked classified reports detailing Earth's defenses, fueling dissent among the ranks. Soldiers began questioning whether conquest was worth the cost, not just in lives lost, but in sanity shattered. Some defected entirely, joining Vera's cause. But humanity wasn't done yet. Marquez unveiled the final phase of Project Gaia, aerial apex predators. Massive dragon-like creatures took to the skies, their wingspans spanning dozens of meters. They targeted Caliph dropships and fighters, spitting corrosive saliva that dissolved metal on contact. Pilots scrambled to evade, only to find themselves ensnared by web-like strands secreted from the creature's tails. One night, Thalric received word of another catastrophic defeat. Aerial squads wiped out over the Himalayas. His face turned pale as he read the report. For the first time, doubt crept into his eyes. "We can't win this war," a subordinate admitted quietly. "Earth doesn't fight fair. It doesn't follow rules." Thalric slammed his fist on the table, shouting, "Then we burn it to ashes." But even as he spoke, alarms blared throughout the ship. On screen, a massive storm system loomed over Earth's surface, its swirling clouds charged with unnatural energy. At its center, something stirred, an entity vast and ancient, awakened by humanity's defiance. Earth itself had become the ultimate predator. The storm above Earth grew darker, its swirling clouds crackling with energy that defied explanation. Lightning arced across the sky in unnatural patterns, illuminating the jagged silhouette of massive dragon-like creatures circling the atmosphere like vultures waiting to strike. Below, the Caliph forces scrambled to regroup, their once unstoppable fleet now fractured and overwhelmed. General Thalric's orders came faster and angrier, but his commands carried little weight among soldiers who no longer trusted him or themselves. Commander Vera, now hiding under the guise of a Harmonist operative, knew time was running out. The Caliph were losing not just battles, but their grip on sanity. She had seen too many comrades fall victim to Earth's relentless wrath, whether through physical destruction or psychological torment, and she couldn't let it continue. Humanity had proven itself resourceful, resilient, and unwilling to surrender. If the Caliph stayed any longer, they would be annihilated completely. Through encrypted channels, Vera sent a message to Dr. Elena Marquez, requesting a meeting. It was a risky move. Betrayal from either side could mean disaster. But both women understood the stakes. Continuing the war would only lead to mutual destruction, and perhaps the end of intelligent life on Earth altogether. The rendezvous took place deep within the ruins of an abandoned city, where crumbling skyscrapers stood as silent witnesses to humanity's struggle. Marquez arrived flanked by armed resistance fighters, her expression cautious but determined. Vera stepped forward alone, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. For a moment, neither woman spoke, sizing each other up. "You're taking a great risk coming here," Marquez finally said, breaking the silence. "As are you," Vera replied evenly. "But we have no choice. My people are dying. Your planet is fighting back harder than anyone predicted. If this continues, there will be nothing left for either of us." Marquez studied her carefully. Despite everything, she saw genuine fear in Vera's eyes. Not for herself, but for her species. This wasn't the cold, calculating commander she'd expected. It was someone desperate to survive. "What do you propose?" Marquez asked after a pause. Vera exhaled sharply. "A ceasefire. I'll fake my death publicly and defect fully to the Harmonists. Together, we'll rally support for withdrawal. In exchange, you must halt Project Gaia's attacks once our fleet leaves orbit." Marquez hesitated. Trusting a Caliph, even one claiming to want peace, was dangerous. Yet she also knew prolonging the conflict would devastate Earth further. After consulting briefly with Priya and her team, she nodded. "Agreed, but if your people try anything, we won't hesitate to finish what we started." Vera acknowledged the warning with a slight bow. "Understood." Over the next few days, Vera worked tirelessly to sow discord among the Caliph leadership. Leaked recordings revealed Thalric's brutal tactics and reckless decisions, sparking outrage among the troops. Meanwhile, the Harmonists spread whispers of hope, urging others to abandon the doomed campaign. When the moment came, Vera staged her death during a chaotic battle near the equator. A rigged explosion destroyed her command vehicle, leaving behind charred wreckage and scattered debris. To the Caliph High Command, it looked like another casualty of Earth's ferocity. In reality, Vera slipped away, joining the Harmonists in secret. Together, they prepared to confront Thalric and demand an immediate retreat. Above them, The storm raged on, its power growing stronger with every passing hour. Earth had shown its teeth. Now, humanity and their unlikely ally would decide whether the Caliph lived to see another day or vanished forever. The Caliph fleet was unraveling. General Thaurik, desperate to salvage his crumbling command, launched a full-scale assault on the Harmonist stronghold hidden deep within Earth's mountains. It was a reckless move, born of desperation and rage. But he had no other options. If the Harmonists succeeded in rallying support for withdrawal, it would mean not only the end of the invasion but also his career, and possibly his life. Vera stood among the Harmonists, her heart pounding as she watched the battle unfold from inside the fortified bunker. Outside, plasma fire lit up the night sky, turning the jagged peaks into silhouettes against a backdrop of destruction. The air trembled with the roar of explosions and the guttural cries of Earth's apex predators tearing through enemy lines. "This is madness," muttered one of the Harmonist leaders, gripping his weapon tightly. "Thaurik will destroy us all before he admits defeat." "No," Vera replied sharply, her voice cutting through the tension. "He'll destroy himself first. We just need to hold out long enough to make him realize that." Her confidence wasn't unfounded. Humanity's resistance fighters had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Underground networks coordinated attacks on key Caliph installations across the globe, forcing Thaurik to divert resources away from the mountain stronghold. Meanwhile, Project Gaia unleashed its most devastating counterattack yet, a massive storm system fueled by geoengineering technology. Lightning struck Caliph ships in orbit, disabling their shields and crippling their ability to provide reinforcements. On the ground, chaos reigned. Soldiers loyal to Thaurik clashed with Harmonist defectors, brother fighting brother in a brutal civil war. Amid the confusion, Vera led a small team of trusted allies toward the flagship's main reactor, the heart of the Caliph fleet's power supply. Destroying it would cripple their entire operation, leaving them stranded and vulnerable. "Are you sure about this?" asked Lirin, a former comrade who had joined the Harmonists after losing faith in the Dominion. His face was streaked with dirt and blood, but his eyes burned with determination. "I don't have a choice," Vera replied grimly. "If we fail here, Earth will finish what we started, and none of us will survive." The journey to the reactor was harrowing. Every step brought them closer to death. Bioengineered creatures hunted them relentlessly, their glowing markings illuminating the darkness like ghostly lanterns. Plasma bolts whizzed past their heads as they dodged patrols and scrambled over rubble. But Vera refused to falter. She had sacrificed too much to turn back now. Finally, they'd reached the reactor chamber, a cavernous room filled with pulsating energy conduits and humming machinery. Vera set the charges quickly, her hands steady despite the weight of what she was about to do. As the timer ticked down, she turned to her team. "Get out of here," she ordered firmly. "I'll stay behind to ensure the detonation." Lirin hesitated, pain flickering across his face. "Commander." "Go," Vera snapped, her voice breaking slightly. "This is my responsibility. My failure. Let me fix it." Reluctantly, the team obeyed, disappearing into the shadows. Alone, Vera gazed at the reactor one last time. Images of her fallen comrades flashed through her mind, their faces twisted in agony, their voices silenced by Earth's wrath. For years, she had believed in the Dominion's superiority. Now, she understood the cost of such arrogance. As the countdown reached 0, a blinding explosion tore through the chamber, engulfing everything in light. Above, the Caliph fleet shuddered violently, its systems collapsing under the strain. Ships tumbled from orbit like dying stars, crashing into Earth's surface or burning up in the atmosphere. In the aftermath, silence fell over the battlefield. The storm above began to dissipate, its fury spent. Humanity emerged cautiously from their hiding places, staring at the wreckage of the once mighty fleet. Earth had won, but at a terrible price. And somewhere in the void, fragments of the Caliph Dominion whispered warnings. never return. The sun rose over a scared and battered Earth, its golden light casting long shadows across the ruins of war. Smoke still lingered in the air, mixing with the faint scent of ash and melted metal. Humanity emerged cautiously from bunkers, shelters, and hidden strongholds, their faces etched with exhaustion, but also triumph. The Caliph fleet was gone, reduced to smoldering wreckage scattered across the planet's surface. For the first time in months, the skies were clear, free of alien ships and oppressive energy fields. Dr. Elena Marquez stood atop a hill overlooking what had once been a thriving city, now reduced to rubble. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edges of her coat, shielding herself from the cool morning breeze. Behind her, Priya and other members of Project Gaia worked tirelessly to assess the damage and begin recovery efforts. But Marquez couldn't shake the weight of what they'd endured and achieved. "They're really gone," Priya said softly, joining her side. "We did it. Against all odds, we won." Marquez nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "Yes, we did. But at what cost?" The question hung heavy in the air. Countless lives had been lost, human and Caliph alike. Entire ecosystems had been disrupted, some irreparably altered by the bioengineered organisms unleashed during the war. Cities lay in ruins, economies shattered, families torn apart. Yet, amidst the devastation, there was hope. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing against even the most advanced foes. They had united, not perfectly, not without conflict, but enough to fight for their home. In the days that followed, stories of Commander Vera spread like wildfire. Though few knew the truth of her sacrifice, whispers of a Caliph officer who turned against her own kind inspired both admiration and unease. Some called her a traitor, others hailed her as a hero. Marquez chose not to reveal the full details of their alliance, knowing it would only complicate an already fragile peace. Instead, she focused on rebuilding, channeling humanity's newfound unity into healing Earth's wounds. But Earth itself seemed different now. Strange phenomena continued to occur, plants growing faster than ever before, animals displaying heightened intelligence, storms forming patterns too precise to be natural. Scientists theorized that Project Gaia had awakened something ancient within the planet's biosphere, perhaps even a latent consciousness. Whether this change was permanent or reversible remained unknown. One evening, Marquez received a final transmission, a garbled message intercepted from deep space. It was fragmented, barely decipherable, but one phrase stood out: "Earth is alive. Do not return." She stared at the screen for a long time, her mind racing. Had Earth truly become sentient? Was it now watching, waiting, protecting itself from future threats? Or was this simply the lingering paranoia of a species that had nearly been wiped out? As weeks turned into months, life began to stabilize. Governments worked together to rebuild infrastructure, while underground networks transitioned into global organizations dedicated to defending Earth. Marquez became a symbol of resilience, advocating for cooperation and innovation in preparation for whatever challenges lay ahead. Somewhere in the stars, fragments of the Caliph Dominion drifted aimlessly, carrying warnings of Earth's wrath. And on the blue planet below, humanity vowed never to forget the lessons they'd learned. Strength came not from weapons or technology, but from unity, adaptability, and the unyielding will to survive. Earth had changed forever, and so had those who called it home.